and smell the flowers. If you like to climb the trees.
Hello and welcome to podcast number 26. Now, you will have to excuse me, I'm looking a little bit rough around the edges today. I had every intention of filming my podcast yesterday from home, but as those of you in the UK will know, it's half term at the moment, which means all the children are at home. And so I've had to come into work this morning, and then squeeze in a quick bit of filming at the end of my day. So it wasn't until I sat down to film that I realised I had no makeup on my face, hadn't put a brush through my hair, and looked like I'd been dragged through a bush backwards. But the show must go on. So, welcome. I'm Claire, and this is the Beautiful Things podcast. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see, and thanks for stopping by. And those of you who are returning viewers, thank you for coming back. I obviously haven't put you off so far. Let's see if we can put you off at the end of this one. So first things first is to talk about where you can find me. I am most active on Instagram. You can find me as ArtyFartyMac, although I have just set up a brand new Instagram feed, which is Beautiful Things HQ. So if you're interested in the classes that I run, which are craft classes, sewing classes, crochet and knitting from Essex here in the UK, if you're interested in those and want to keep up to date with what we're doing, then that's another feed that you might like to follow. My personal one, ArtyFartyMac, is about my own knitting journey, the bits and pieces that I make, a bit of dressmaking, plenty of cocktails, gin, general life with children, and generally just anything that takes my fancy. So I decided that I would have a little bit more of a slightly focused feed when it came to my business. So I now have that secondary feed for you to follow. You can also find me on Facebook at Beautiful Things Classes. I'm on Twitter at Claire McInnes, although I have to admit I don't tweet very often. And obviously you found me here on YouTube. Now my YouTube channel is slightly different from the norm. I am not just a podcaster, although I do have a knitting and crochet podcast, which you will find in the podcast a playlist on YouTube. I also post videos about my dressmaking and my sewing, along with vlogs and days out. So if I go to places that I think are of interest to my followers, then I will record them. Now firstly, I must thank those of you who have been watching me for some time and have caught up with my craftcation videos. So it's been 3 weeks since I last podcast. Normally I try and podcast every couple of weeks, but 2 weeks ago I took a craftcation and I had 4 days at home where I did nothing but pure unadulterated sewing, and I made myself 5 lovely garments, and I videoed every single day, and I vlogged my whole craftcation, and I've had such an amazing amount of feedback from that particular series of videos. Thank you so much for all of your comments, your likes, your shares, everything else. It was so much fun to do, and it was really lovely to know that all of you enjoyed it too. So thank you if you did watch those videos, and if you didn't, then they are now in their own dedicated playlist, so you can go back and have a look. So it was lots of fun to do, but obviously it took over a whole week of my life, which meant I didn't get much knitting or crochet done, and so therefore I didn't bother podcasting a week ago because I didn't really have much to show you, and I waited until this week. But then trying to squeeze this podcast in has become a little bit of a challenge, but here we go. So let's start. I do have an FO to show you. I haven't actually got it here to show you, and the reason being is because it was a present for the lovely Elspeth. So it was Elspeth's birthday on Monday, and I decided that I was going to knit her a llama. Now, the lovely Carol, who is our knitting teacher, gave me a pattern. She had just photocopied it out of a book, and unfortunately I don't know which book it came from, but I will try to find out, for a lovely little knitted llama. He was really, really quick to knit. It took me 2 days to knit all the pieces together, as in 2 evenings, and then another evening to sew him all together, and I really enjoyed making him. So I'm going to pop up a little picture of him here. So this is Lancelot when he was finished. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen him. And I gave him to Elspeth on Monday, and we had a lovely afternoon tea in my garden with my crazy children and my mum and her friend Leslie, and we gave Lancelot to Elspeth. So I filmed Elspeth unwrapping Lancelot, and then a little bit of footage with Lancelot and my daughter. So I'm going to pop that in right now. So enjoy.
Oh, pasta. Got eyes. Got eyes. Got eyes. Oh, it's a baby llama. She's been making. Oh. Hello. Oh, I thought him. What did I call him? He's called Lancelot. Lancelot. Oh, hello, Lancelot. Hey, Lancelot. Excellent. Have you met? You have met? Yes. You've met all my friends, but you haven't met me. You come home and live with me. Does he like dogs?
I want to hug you. I want to hug you.
Oh, I think Lancelot's going to be all right. Perhaps we could relate a little message.
What is that? How do you spell Lancelot?
L-A-N.
I don't know what.
L. A. N.
Hello, everybody.
K. Nice curvy K.
Is that?
A curly K. A curly K. That's right. That's one of them.
What next?
Another L.
Hello, Lancelot.
Hello, Rosie.
I'm writing your name.
Gosh, Lancelot's good at spelling already, and he's only young.
Thank you. That's
Lancelot
splendid.
lives with Elspeth.
He will do.
What should I write? Lancelot.
Well, he'll have to be Lancelot Corrie.
Lancelot Corrie.
Okay.
Calico. Oh, Gotta love phonics.
What?
Bye, everybody.
After
So I'm sure you'll agree that Lancelot looks like he's gone to a good home. I was really, really pleased with him, and Elspeth absolutely loved him. So he was a fantastic present. So that's my FO for today. But I do also have what I'm going to call a half object. So you might remember in my last podcast, I showed you my Beautiful Things socks. And I told you that I decided I was going to do an afterthought heel. So here they are. Now, I was going to do the afterthought heel on my craftcation, but I hadn't got them finished in time. I only finished these last week when I was babysitting, and I put the toes in. So they've all been grafted, all the ends have been darned in, and they're blocked, and they're now ready to cut my stitches for my afterthought heel. So I'm going to do that, I think, next week. So when I have some time and some peace and quiet and some time to myself, I have a little bit of time on Monday afternoon with nothing in the diary. So I think that's when I'm going to get those done. Now we're going to move on to whips. And I'm going to start with another little sock project. So these are my watermelon socks in my watermelon bag, which I made myself. Thank you to everybody who purchased watermelon bags for me, by the way, in the latest shop update. They have all sold out, but there is one little notions pouch left. So this is made with the lovely hand dyed by Kate watermelon sock yarn. And I have, I'm going to show you this one first because I've got it in my hands. This one I've got my cuff, and I've made a start on the striping. I must thank Leslie for casting that cuff on for me during our afternoon tea. She hadn't brought her knitting with her, so I gave her the green yarn and she cast on and knit the cuff for me, while I carried on knitting the stripes on this one. It is so cool. It really is fantastic yarn. So much fun to knit with, and you really can't put it down. So I cast the cuff on for this one last Monday because on the Tuesday I was taking Izzy up to London. We were going to Great Ormond Street so she could have some eye tests done, and I thought I'd have plenty of train knitting time and waiting room knitting time, but actually I didn't get very much done at all. I think I only knitted up to about here, because the appointments were so swift and smooth that we didn't have any hanging about to do, and the trains were commuter trains, so it wasn't really that practical to knit. But this one's now ready for its heel. I'm going to get this one knit to the same point, and then I'll put the heels in, and then I'll put the feet in. These are going with me this weekend. I'm up to Birmingham this weekend with my son. My husband's exhibiting at the NEC with work, so we're going to go up and spend the weekend with him. So we're going by train, we're coming home by train, so plenty of train knitting, and I'm going to be taking those with me to work on. So the next thing I want to show you is my Marled Magic shawl, which I am knitting for the Keep Knitting Kitten Cow, which the lovely Hannah from the Crafty Chat podcast is hosting. It's a Stephen West along. Now it is due to finish at the end of June, and I do not expect to have a finished object. I really don't. I haven't had enough time. It is a little bit addictive, but not as addictive as a normal Stephen West pattern, and I'm not sure that I'm going to get it done, but we'll see. Let me show you where I've got to. So this is living in my Kettle Yarn Company alpaca bag. I have all the yarns for it in a big basket at home because there are lots and lots of yarns, as I've showed you before. But I got the first clue finished. It looks a bit weird at the moment, I think. It needs blocking. But that's knitted with just a purple mohair and a pinky coloured 4-ply. And then I've now moved on to clue 2, which is the moss stitch marled section. So I'll try and get this to focus in for you. There we go. So you can see it's what they call a gradual marl. So every 4 rows you're changing one colour, but not both colours. So it runs through, which is really pretty. So I'm holding double fingering weight yarns and also putting in some mohairs, and I do like it. I'm pleased with it. I've got a long way to go on this section. I think this is about row 7, or pattern repeat 7 of 28, I think, pattern repeats. There's a hole in it here, and that's not a drop stitch. That's me making 2 new stitches because I realised my stitch count was 2 stitches out, and I really couldn't bother to do anything about it. So it's so mushed up that actually once it's all blocked, I can put a little bit of stitch in there, tie it in, and I'm really not worried. So it's not amazing. I'm not loving it yet. It's not absolutely igniting my inner knitting fire, but I'm enjoying it, and I haven't spent loads of money on it. It's pretty much all stash and stuff that I've been given, so I don't mind too much about that. So let's see how I get on with that. I will keep you posted. That's certainly not coming to Birmingham with me. There's far too much yarn involved, so it's sitting in front of the telly knitting. So I can't see any more of that being done this week. It will probably be next week before I can get started on that. Although possibly I might have this evening, maybe tomorrow evening, but we'll see how we go. Now, the last work in progress is a sad, sorry state. I have decided, even though it's for my own cow, my exploration station is going to be flogged. Rest in peace, exploration station. Let me tell you why. So, you may remember a little while ago when I'd done the first rows and first sections that I told you that I didn't really think much of the colours. They didn't seem to work well together, and although they look really nice together in balls, they didn't look nice together in a shawl. But I was going to keep going and see how I got on. Well, the further I've got into this shawl, the more I've realised it's just a dirgy mess. I don't like it. I'm never going to wear it. And the yarns that are in it are nearly £100 worth of yarn. And that is complete and utter waste. Yes, hours and hours and hours have gone into knitting this, but I don't love it, and I have learned lots from it. I've learned to brioche for a start, which I'm really pleased with, but the fact that A, I don't love it, B, the brioche section is wrong. You've still got this very visible row. You can see right through there. You can see it running right along here, right through the middle of the brioche. It really screams out like a sore thumb. And then I've come to do the slip stitch section. When I look at it, it just looks like a hot mess. There looks to be, there's no stitch definition, there's no obvious pattern. I really don't like it. So it's going to be frogged. So I've left it for you to see. I mean, I've stopped. You can see I stopped halfway through a row because I just wasn't happy with it. So yeah, I'm going to put it back. I think I love, love, love this octopus garden. I mean, it's so beautiful. Let's see if I can show it off. How pretty is that? Can we just say it goes in my nails as well? Look at that. It's just gorgeous. So, so pretty and sparkly. And then when it's knitted up, it's just so pretty. And the whole idea of this exploration stain was to feature this yarn, to really make it sing. And the yarns that I've put with it just don't work, and I don't want to waste it. Obviously, as we know, the lovely Kristen from Villain Vine dies in the US. So by the time you've paid the money for the yarn and had it shipped to the UK, this probably worked out nearly £45 for a skein, which is the most money I've ever spent on yarn. It needs to be knitted into something absolutely beautiful that I'm going to love and wear loads. Now, it does work, I think, really nicely with the purple. But I think what it really needs is to play on that beautiful sherbety blue and the minty green and the ice cream colours, and it needs to have the pastels with it, or even just a cream with a bit of spark or something like that. So I'm going to take it back with me to some of the fibre festivals that I'm going to in the next few months, and I'll tell you more about that later on, and find a pair for it, something beautiful. And I may potentially knit it into an All About the Brioche, which is a very, very simple shawl, but just has a lovely, lovely segment of brioche in it, which I think will really make this sing. So the rest of the yarns are just going to go into my stash and they'll find their way into something else. So I'm going to keep the cowl open, obviously. It is due to run until the end of July, and I know lots of you are working on them. Again, the lovely Hannah from the Crafty Chat podcast has posted her exploration station, and I have to admit, seeing her finished object really was the nail in the coffin for my exploration station. Hers is beautiful. Her yarns really work well together. It's beautiful, it's purpley, it's lilac-y, it's pastel-y, it's just everything that I would want in an exploration station. And I will knit another one another day, but I think it's going to be put on the back burner until, again, I find yarns that really, really do work well together. This has been a real big learning curve for me, that it's not just about how your yarns look in the skein, because they can look really good together, which mine did. It's how they look when they're knitted, and it can be totally and utterly different. So again, it's another classic example that you really should swatch all of your yarns to see what they're going to knit up like before you necessarily choose to put them together. So bye bye exploration station, and good luck to all of you who have entered the cowl. Do pop over to the Ravelry group and see the finished objects that are popping up, and have a chat in the chatter threads if you're working on an exploration station. But this is me saying bye bye exploration cowl and backing out for now whilst my one is frogged. This is a really bad place to sit. Every time I stay still for more than a second, my camera decides it wants to focus on my sewing machine and not on me, which is a little bit annoying. So I do apologise if it keeps going in and out on you. So the next part of my podcast is acquisitions, and I do have a couple of things to show you. The first one is a little bit rattly, but I really don't want to take it out of its packet. I treated myself to this when the lovely Kate from Hand Dyed by Kate had a little shop update the other day. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to use it for, but it was too pretty and I couldn't say no. So I bought myself a mini skein set, and it's all the lovely fluoro colours that she does. So I may knit this together with a plain yarn, I'm not sure yet. I have got the new Crochet Project shawl book that I bought when I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that often goes with one big skein and lots of minis, so I may well have a good flick through that again before the yarn festivals I'm going to and see if I can get a skein to go with these. I think it would need to be a grey or a cream or something very, very plain, maybe a speckly cream or something like that to make these sing, but they are absolutely beautiful. Now the other one was one that I'd actually forgotten about. I bought it a couple of months ago on pre-order, and so when it turned up I was reminded that I'd ordered it, and that happens quite frequently. I'll forget that I've ordered things and then they turn up and they're a nice surprise. So it was this gorgeous package. It came in a lovely brown bag and it was all tied up with string, but I have opened it to have a look, and it's from Down Sheepy Lane, and it's my very first gobstopper. Ah, look at that. It's grey and bubblegum pink. How beautiful is that? It's a self-striping gobstopper, and it comes with a mini in a brighter pink that you can use for contrast heels, cuffs and toes if you want to. I don't think I will though. I still have some silver bullet left over from Undercover Otter, and I think that will go better with that. So I think I'll put the mini into my Marled Magic or just pop it in my box and use it for something else. But there's more goodies in the bag that I wasn't expecting. I'm going to tip them out. So on the card, this is it. It's there we go, Debbie Dancer from Down Sheepy Lane, but on there was a lovely little stitch marker. Don't know if I can get this to show you, hang on. And it's this lovely little flower, so it's on a little progress keeper, a little lobster clasp, but there's also a stitch marker as well there. And also included was a whole string of more little flowers. Come on. More lovely little flowers, the little rings that you can use as knitting stitch markers, which I thought was really, really sweet. So that's my next vanilla sock sorted after my watermelon sock yarn. So while we talk about acquisitions, I thought I'd talk about some of the yarn festivals that I'm planning on going to over the next few months and what I'm looking to buy. So it also gives you an opportunity, if you're going to, you can let me know and we can perhaps arrange to meet up and say hi. So the first of the yarn festivals that I'm going to is PomFest. Now PomFest is taking place on the 14th and 15th of July in London, and it's organised by the people behind Pom Pom magazine. And it's their 5th anniversary, I think, of Pom Pom magazine. I don't read it personally, but they're having a fantastic 2-day marketplace on the Friday and the Saturday, and on the Friday night they're having a party with basically a live PomFest podcast and lots of interesting people giving lots of talks and discussions. So I've got tickets to the Friday day and also the party on the Friday night. I know that quite a few of my fellow podcasters are going, and I'm also taking quite a few of my regular ladies from here, Beautiful Things. So I'm sure we're going to have lots of fun. There'll be much shopping, much gin drinking and much partying. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm going to be very, very easy to spot at the yarn festivals this year because I will probably be wearing my alpaca lady skater dress. So I'll be nice and easy to find. So there are loads and loads of really good vendors coming to the marketplace. It's quite a small marketplace, but it's very niche. And some of the people that I'm really looking forward to seeing are Fine Fish Yarns. I saw them at Unravel this year and I absolutely loved their DK. It was super squidgy, really lovely and speckled. And unfortunately I'd run out of money by the time I got to them. So definitely they are on my shopping list. I want to buy a sweater quantity of their DK. Also on my list is the lovely Amy Florence from Stranded. She will be there this year and she's vending, so I'd very much like to get some of her yarn. I have no idea what I'm going to make with it, but I'd just like to treat myself to something that she's dyed. I might get myself a sock blank because I've never worked from a sock blank before and it would be nice to try something new. The other people that I was very excited to find would be at PomFest were Labby Ann and me. Now, after Edinburgh Yarn Festival, all of the podcasters were raving about Labby Ann and me. They'd all bought things from them. Lots of them had bought sweater quantities of yarn, and I don't know how, but I totally and utterly missed their stall when I was there. I'd never heard of them before, and I think I just must have skimmed past them. But I want a second chance, so I'm going to make sure that I go to the Labby Ann and me stall and probably pick myself up a nice little treat. There's lots and lots of other yarn companies there, including one of my favourites, Kettle Yarn Co. I really mustn't let myself buy any yarn from them though. I am on a Kettle Yarn Company ban because the last 3 projects that I've made have included their yarn, and I really do need to knit my beautiful All About the Brioche shawl that I purchased the yarn for at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So if I don't get that made, I'm then going to have even more Kettle Yarn Company yarn sitting in my stash. So I need to be good and I need to be restrained. So if you're off to PomFest, let me know. I'd really like to catch up with you and say hi. The second yarn festival that I'm going to be going to is on the 29th and the 30th of July, and that's Fibre East, and that's in Hertfordshire, so it's not too far away from me. And I will be going on Sunday the 30th. So last year I went on the Saturday, and I know the podcaster meetup was on the Saturday, but I can't go on the Saturday this year because I'm working, and the Sunday is the only day that I'm available. So I will definitely be there on the Sunday. If there isn't going to be a podcaster meetup on the Sunday, then I will organise something. So again, if you're going, do keep an eye on my Instagram feed and I will let you know where I'm going to be at a certain time, and hopefully we can catch up and have a little knit and have a little coffee. This year I'm going to be taking my mum, which is really exciting. She hasn't been, other than Yarndale, she hasn't been to a fibre festival with me before, so it will be really nice. I have absolutely nothing on my shopping list for Fibre East. I'm going to treat myself to whatever I fancy, within reason. I'm not on a yarn diet, but I probably should be because I haven't really got much money at the moment, and I need to try and be good and be a little bit restrained. I think I spent about £250 last year at Fibre East, and half of the projects that I bought yarn for I haven't made, which is really naughty. So I must be restrained and be good like I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So again, if you're going to Fibre East, do let me know. Next up on the Yarny calendar is Yarndale. Now this year I am not going to Yarndale. I've been for the last 3 years. Last year I went as an exhibitor, which was amazing. It was a fantastic experience. We had a really fantastic weekend, but it cost me and my business so much money to exhibit at Yarndale, what with the travel up there, getting a whole stand together, loads and loads of stock, all of the publicity, all of my team had uniforms, we had all our meals, our accommodation, everything else. We had a fantastic time, but it was such a huge expense to me that I'm still trying to kind of recoup some of that back. And as much as I love Yarndale and I love the people that are there, a lot of the exhibitors that I would go to see are at Fibre East and PomFest, so I don't need to trudge all the way up to Skipton in North Yorkshire and pay out for a weekend away. It also clashes with my next staycation or craftcation that I'm taking with Elspeth, which is a good thing because it means I'm not likely to suddenly get in the car or get on a train because everybody's going to Yarndale and whisk myself off up there because I feel that I want to be with everybody. So I'm sure anyone who's going to Yarndale this year will have an amazing time. It is a fabulous show. Lucy and her team of organisers do such a fantastic job at making a really, really great event, and it really couldn't be in a better location just to be able to step outside the cattle sheds and have all of the sheep on the hills barring away while you're doing your knitting and buying your yarn is fantastic. It is a brilliant show, and do make sure if you are going that you go and have something to eat in the Keelan Barnes Farm Shop, which is next door, because it's an amazing place to eat, a fantastic restaurant, and I can highly recommend it. But I will not be at Yarndale this year. But there has been a new sneaky addition to my Fibre Festival calendar. Only last week there was a big announcement that tickets had gone on sale for the all-new Nottingham Yarn Expo. Now, Nottingham is somewhere that I wouldn't necessarily normally travel to. However, my very good friend Saz, viewer of the podcast and also lovely yarny knitty person now, was my long distance crochet pupil and has now started on her own personal knitting journey, lives in Nottingham. So when I found out that there was going to be a yarn festival in Nottingham, I sent her a little message and said, do you fancy having someone on your couch for the night, Saz? And she said, yes, please. We are planning on going to the Nottingham Yarn Expo. Now, it is on, I'm just going to check my diary, the 11th and 12th of November. That's Saturday and Sunday. I will be travelling up in the morning on the Saturday, so I'll be at the Yarn Expo for Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday. How fragile I'll be on the Sunday, I'm not sure, because Saz and I are planning on going out on the town on the Saturday night. But I'm very much looking forward to a day and a half of yarny fun with my very good friend. Now, the people that are going to be at the Nottingham Yarn Expo, there are hundreds. It looks like it's going to be an absolutely massive show. It's at the university and it looks like it's going to be really, really huge. But I would say a good 75% of the vendors I have not heard of before. So they have pulled together a brand new mix of people, which is really, really nice. It's lovely to always go and see the same faces and buy the same yarn, but when we can get introduced to new yarn dyers and new indie suppliers, it's really lovely. So I'm very much looking forward to that and finding some new companies that I haven't tried before. So do take a look at the website for the Nottingham Yarn Expo, and if you can go along, let us know. Obviously nearer the time, it's a long way away. I'm sure there will be some information about potential podcast and meetups. So the last thing to talk to you about is a little bit of my crafty sewing. For those of you who like knowing about what I get up to on the sewing machine that's not dressmaking, I do make the occasional batch of project bags to pop in my shop. I'll put the details down below here. It's a little bit empty at the moment, but I have been taking some custom orders, so I'd like to show you one of those. Now the first one is this lovely bag. Now it's ginormous, bigger than my head. So I got this beautiful vintage Womble fabric, as you might remember, and I made some slightly smaller bags. I did a shop update which sold out within 7 minutes the other month, but then I managed to get some more of the fabric. So this one is actually for the lovely Kate from Hand Dyed by Kate. It is a giant size zip up shawl bag, and I've actually added handles to it so it can be used as a little over the shoulder knitting bag. So I'm really, really pleased with that. She ordered one of my shawl size ones in the recent update, and when it arrived she liked it so much that she ordered another one. So I've made her one that's twice this size so she can get a sweater or a really lovely ginormous project in it. The other thing, I have sewn up the alpaca fabric that I showed you in the last podcast. So I've sewn this up into sock size. Get it open. Stand it up for you. Sock sized project bags in this gorgeous alpaca fabric. And I have 2 sets available, and both sets are a little boxed bottom project bag and a little boxed bottomed notions pouch. These have been folded up so they've got a bit squashed, but you'll get a little notions pouch and a little sock size project bag with matching coordinating zips, and those sets will be available in the shop. So there are 2 sets available. And the last thing, for those of you who watched my video about my alpacas, or my llamas, sorry, that I made, my review of the Lulu Llama pattern by Ginger Cake Patterns, Lulu the llama, or Glamour Llama as she was called, and my male llama Larry have been getting a little bit frisky in the studio, and it would appear they've had some offspring. This is Lolly, and she is a baby llama. So the lovely thing about the Lulu the llama pattern is that if you scale it down to 65%, you can make little small llamas. So you can see just with the size of my hands, she's quite dinky. She's very, very sweet, and she is just as easy to make. Maybe a little bit fiddlier because the pieces are smaller, but she is just as easy to make as the Lulu the llama pattern. So if you want to make yourself one of these llamas, head on over to the Ginger Cake Patterns and download the pattern. It is available to purchase. Or if you live in Essex, we still have places on our llama party classes. So we have 3 classes coming up soon. One of them is fully booked, but the other 2 have spaces still available. So pop yourself along to the website down here, go to the classes section, go to the sewing section, and you will find our llama party classes. So you can come and you can have your hand held while you make your very own llama. We're then going to take them out onto the farm where Beautiful Things is based and take some pictures of them in the field. So they're going to have their very own photo shoot, which will be lots and lots of fun. So that's really all I've got that's kind of knitty and sewy, other than to say, obviously I am off to Birmingham this weekend. I did mention it. My husband is exhibiting at the National Board Game Expo, or the Games Expo, I can't remember exactly what it's called. Anyway, I'm taking my son up there and we're going to go round, and as a mummy I'm going to be thoroughly bored. So I'm then going to drag Tom off to be thoroughly bored, and we are going into Birmingham City Centre, and I am going to have a mooch around the rag market, which is very exciting. So I will probably vlog some of that. I'm also planning while I'm up there to go and visit the lovely Lauren's shop from the Sewing Bee, Guthrie Garney, which is in the village of Moseley. So I will definitely be vlogging that as well. It's a shop that I've wanted to go to for about 3 years now, ever since it opened, and I've never really been up there and had the opportunity to do so. So I shall be doing a little bit of fabric purchasing this weekend, no doubt. And obviously probably get plenty of knitting done as well, although it will probably just be sock knitting for now. So that's all that's really happening in my life. I did want to just say one last thing. Now, you may have noticed in the last couple of months I have monetized my YouTube channel. So you may well see that you get adverts pop up at the beginning, possibly sometime through the middle of the podcast, and even sometimes at the end. Now you'll notice the majority of us podcasters and sewing vloggers do that. And I have to say, there isn't millions of pounds to be made from it. However, what you might not realise is filming, editing and uploading a podcast takes an awful lot of time. Your podcast that you're watching is probably roughly 45 minutes long. It's probably about an hour, maybe just over an hour's worth of footage altogether that has then been edited. And to edit every podcast takes me about an hour. I then sit, once it's edited, and let the files compress. Now that takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And then I sit and I watch the podcast through from start to end to make sure that there's no hiccups, that the right things come along when they should do, the right pictures come up when they should do, before I then upload it to YouTube, which again can take anywhere between half an hour to 2 hours depending on the speed of the internet. So there's an awful lot of time and effort that goes into recording a podcast. Now all of us podcasters podcast because we absolutely love doing it. We like working with you, we like being part of the community, we like sharing our projects with you. You keep us motivated and inspired. But at the end of the day, when you take all that time into consideration, it is nice if we can get a little tiny bit of something back for our time. If not, just to go into the pot to buy more yarn, more fabric and be able to make more things. So we do really, really appreciate it if you'll just take that extra 30 seconds to watch that advert. Please don't skip if you can help it. And if you do have an advert blocker on your internet, then just switch it off when you're on YouTube so you can at least watch the adverts through. And I know that every single one of my podcasting friends and vloggers will appreciate you doing that for them. It isn't us being greedy and going out there there to get money. I hardly make a bean from my YouTube channel, but it is just nice to have that little bit of extra pennies coming in to go towards yarn. So it takes 10 seconds sometimes to watch an advert and not skip, maybe sometimes 30 at the very most, and it's probably completely irrelevant. You might have been told about ovulation tests, which is one of my favourites to see, or my absolute favourite is the spray that you take to the toilet with you, and I can't remember what it's called, but it gets rid of the smell of the poo, and it's something like poo banish or something horrendous, awful stuff. I'd never ever buy it, but all you have to do is just press play, walk away, go make yourself a cup of tea while that video plays, and then come back and you get to enjoy our podcasts and our vlogs. So on behalf of me and all of my fellow vloggers and podcasters, thank you for keeping our channels alive. Please keep watching those adverts. I know they're boring, but you really are helping us out. So that's over and out for me. I'm sure there'll be a vlog coming up in the next few days of my trip to Birmingham, and I'll come back to you in 2 or 3 weeks with another podcast. Thanks for watching. Bye.